Here we go again, guys. We are back. We are back with a very special guest this week. But before I get back into the special guest, I want to welcome back my co-partner in this, Allison Gates. It's good to have you back.
Pleasure, Ray, as always.
Pleasure. We had a lengthy discussion on the six-man mechanics last week. Did you have a chance to review that back?
Not totally. We did have some questions on it or comments on it. There was one thing that I wasn't sure whether I covered correctly or not, and that was who was responsible for which receivers. And we talked a little bit about that when the screen pass came out, and I may have tossed in a little bit of a misleading guidance about who had who on that play.
That's on the deep judge sideline, right? Where he's got one and two. Yeah. I think the back official still has that number one guy outside.
Yeah. And I think the confusion was that I indicated that the sideline guy would end up with two men on coverage.
Yeah. And
that's not correct.
A lot of times though, it does happen that wide side official still does take that number one receiver.
Correct.
Even though it's not his responsibility.
Yeah. The other question that came up, Ray, and I'm sure you noted it, was one of our members asked about, would it have been wrong for the sideline official to call the penalty on what we thought might have been a blindside block or a block from the back on the back? And my response to him, and it's on the Facebook site, was that no, it wouldn't be wrong, because in that situation, there were a number of players around, but there were really only two players or a player from each team who were a threat to each other. And that's where that possible penalty occurred. So it wouldn't have been wrong for the sideline guy to call it, even though he had ball responsibility. But it's one of those things that officials need to sort of focus on. Where is the threat for contact or a problem occurring?
Right. Well, all right, let's get into our third episode. In our third episode, we're going to dig a little bit into the umpire position. So if you're going to be talking umpire, you have to bring this guy on. James, Mr. Vanier Fowler, is joining us tonight for episode 3. Mr. Fowler, welcome to Zebra Chalk Talk.
Hey, thanks a lot, Ray. Good to see you. I've been to Vanier with you as well before. So good to see you. Good to see Al.
I haven't been on the field for Vanier, but I did make the trip up for your last Vanier. Saw your flag late in the game. Got it on tape. I mean, I should put that back up on Facebook. And great flag. Do you remember what it was for?
Yeah, it was a UR with about 2 plays left in the game.
It was. Things were getting a little out of hand in that game, late in the game. But no, I really appreciate you coming on. Listen, when you're talking umpires, and this is my opinion, and I know a lot of people share it, you're probably one of the best umpires across Canada, let alone Atlantic Canada. I know for me, when my assignments come out as a white hat, and especially very beginning of my white hat career, seeing Fowler on the, on your assignment, right off the bat, I can go, whew, I got a great umpire, right? I got a great umpire. So I always love seeing your name on my assignments. Gates, any thoughts from you real quick on your experience of working with Jim?
I don't disagree one little bit with you, Ray. I know that earlier you talked about the referee and umpire communication, and a secret, I guess, of being a referee working with Jim at the umpire is that you hope that the first half of the game goes very smoothly, because as the referee, you're going to spend most of the first half communicating with Jim, trying to find out hints to what his riddle of the day is. Just to get the day off to a good start.
Well, thanks for the compliments, guys, and you both kept relatively straight faces while you were saying it too.
I got a little story about my first AUS overnighter with Fowler, but I'll save that till later on in the episode. All right, let's go. Al, I really want to talk about the umpire for a second. So as a white hat, talk to us real quick about the importance of of having a solid umpire in your crew.
The umpire makes the referee's job so much easier. Referee can sort of focus on the running of the game, the clocks, and getting the ball snapped in time. The umpire is the guy who settles things down when there's discussion on field or concern about things that are going on. And when you have a solid umpire, like you said about your assignment working with Jim, as an example, is that you know that if things get complicated, that as you're trying to work them through, the umpire can be a very valuable asset to you. And, you know, sometimes as a referee, you'll give a captain an option thinking, well, that's the best option, and totally forget about it, about another option, I'm sorry. And that's where a good umpire comes in. They offer information as it's needed, when it's needed. And they're really the guys who make the ship go the way it should.
I agree 100%. And Jim, I want to ask you this because, listen, rules knowledge for all officials on the field are important, but how important is it for the umpire when it comes to rules knowledge?
Well, it's very, very important. Your umpire is really your two IC. He's your second in command. The referee's running the ship. He's running the game, and if there's a debate that comes up, you can offer input into that and say, well, maybe we should look at this or that. The referee's ultimately going to have the final say, but certainly your communication, even before the game, during the game, between plays and setting up plays is very, very, very important, because you are the two on the field in 7-man. If you're setting up your teams, you've got your side and your deep side on either side of the field. You have your referee and your umpire, and you're communicating every play, whether it's verbal, by winks, nods, or what you may have.
Yeah, and that's great. We're going to talk about that a little bit as we get into the play that we're going to be watching a little bit later. And if you're all right, I'm going to bring up the 7-man positioning chart now. Keep in mind, I got this from the US. We need to develop this in Canada, but this is similar, very similar to what we do here in Canada. So let me bring this up. Here it is here. I'm just going to make this a little bigger. All right. So as I mentioned, this is our positioning chart for the 7-man system. The only difference on this chart versus a Canadian chart, other than the width of the field markers, it's the fact that our field judge is called their back judge, and our back judge position is their field judge position. So that's the only differences. But outside that, this is what a 7-man system, 7-man positioning chart looks like. Al, do you want to kind of break this down a little bit about the differences of the 7-man and the 6-man that we just reviewed?
Well, what we've done now is bringing in the 7th official, the field judge, as you pointed out, is now we have 2 deep side guys that are on the sideline, play in, play out. The other thing that's slightly different with the 7-man positioning versus 6 and 5 is that in the play sequence, the referee will line up on the quarterback's throwing arm, which isn't something that we do in the other crew sizes. So that, and you need to figure that out prior to game, like Jim mentioned about the pregame stuff and whatnot. What arm does your quarterback throw with? Going back to the original positioning, the line of scrimmage guys, the down judge and the line judge, same thing. The one big difference now for these 2 guys is they're both hold officials. Neither of them are going to break off the line of scrimmage until the ball crosses the line of scrimmage. And that's because we have the 2 deep guys on the sideline. The field judge now, the new guy that we've added, he lines up about 25 to 30 yards off the line of scrimmage. And basically, he's responsible for everything coming down the center of the field. As I said the other night, those 3 deep guys, their first move when that ball is snapped is to take a step back, read, see what's happening to the play.
What about on the kicking game, Al? Like, if we have a punt downfield, what role are the two deep guys playing in a kicking position?
The two sideline guys,
Yeah,
they're
the two deep guys. Yeah.
as a rule of thumb, and making the assumption that the ball is going to be punted down, hopefully the center of the field. Those two guys, as we talked about in the 6-man, they're going to have prime blocking responsibility, and the field judge is going to take the ball. Now, if the ball gets kicked out towards the sideline, then that responsibility will shift. The field judge will make the call early and go with the call, and his call is generally designated by pointing to the side of the field where the ball is going. And the deep side guy then has ball. The field judge would then pick up on blocking.
Awesome. So outside the field judge, the other biggest change with the 7-man system is the fact that our umpire now is on the offensive side of the ball. So we've been using this mechanic now, I'm going to say for 4 years, 4 or 5 years. Is that correct?
That's about right. 4 or 5. 5 would be my guess.
So Fowler, can you talk to me the biggest change for you from being in that defensive backside of the, being on the defensive side of the ball to coming to the offensive side? How is that, first of all, talk to me about that change and how you dealt with that in the first place. And then talk to me about the differences of how you see the game on the offensive side versus the defensive side of the ball.
Okay, well, I can certainly talk about the change that I saw, because I'd been in with the linebackers for probably 20 or 25 years, maybe even more than that. But who's saying? And the first game I did was 7-man positioning. Dave Hutton, the next CFL official, was down and in town and gave us a critique about the game. And he'd been an umpire in the CFL. And when I started lining up in the offensive backfield, the book says 12 to 15. I was probably at 10. Behind the line of scrimmage, which is way too close. I've gravitated towards 15 yards from the line of scrimmage. My north-south alignment, they tell you within about 2 yards of the tackle, so that you can see the center and see the ball. We changed that a little bit last year because of the BBW, the blocking below the waist zone. And we tried to align ourselves with where the tight end would be, were there a tight end, just to get an idea of where the box was, so we'd be inside or outside. Again, same as the deep guys, Hutton's reaction to my first positioning. Instinctively, when you're in the defensive backfield with the linebackers, your first step is usually forward to react with the play. That's a mistake when you're in the offensive backfield. You may want to take your first step back just to calm down so that you don't jump into the play. You let the play come to you or decide what it's going to be. 15 yards sounds like an awful lot, but you're pretty much, this diagram shows you up a little closer than the referee, but I'm usually pretty balanced with my referee. If my referee's at 12, I'll probably be at 12. If my referee's at 17, I'll be at 17. Just looks nicer and neater on the field. Changes in how you see the game. Offensive holding's a lot easier to see. You're right there. You can tell when the release happens, how it happens, if the defensive person is impeded. Defensive penalties are harder to see. But again, your first read, you're responsible from the center over to your tackle pre-snap. Usually I'll extend that to opposite side guard over, but you must be able to see the ball. Once the snap happens, probably your eyes soften a little bit, or they should soften a little bit and take in a wider range, because as soon as the ball's snapped, the referee has got the quarterback. And Al, correct me if I'm wrong, the referee doesn't usually see too much holding on the right-hand side of the line. So the right guards and right tackles maybe get a little away with a little bit more than the left guards and the left tackles do. So I've rambled on a little bit. Biggest change, physically, your umpire's got to be pretty fit, because every play he spots the ball, which means he's got to run up from his position about 15 yards if there's been no gain. And after he spots the ball, then he runs back 15 yards. So every play in a game, and usually in a university game, there's anywhere from 160 to 180, depending on who's running the game. You're running a minimum of 30 yards on each and every one of them. So it's not like traditionally where you may put an official that's not as fleet of foot and hide him in the middle, as opposed to the outside. Your umpire has to run. Your umpire has to work throughout the game.
That's interesting. You know, it's funny, Jim, when I watch the 7-man system, and like you said, the referee has the quarterback, so you're not watching the quarterback, but the game of football's changed in the fact that most quarterbacks are pretty mobile now, and a lot of them will scramble to the right, and every once in a while they'll scramble to the left and make a play on the wide side of the field. How, like, when you're back there with a mobile quarterback, do you kind of keep an eye on that quarterback for a second to see where he's going? Like, because you could very easily become in the play with a quarterback scrambling to the left there.
Well, the more mobile the quarterback is, the more likely you are to become involved in the play, and you do have to guard against that. Keep in mind that your first reads are tackle to offside guard, expanding to either point of attack on a run play, or lineman on a pass play. As the pass play develops, you narrow your focus to the biggest threat to the quarterback. You officiate the threat is what you do. So you've got an idea what the quarterback is going to do. He may not be your focus, but he is usually in your periphery. If you start at 15 yards back, the quarterback probably starts 4, 5, 6 yards in front of you. If he takes 2 steps back, you may very well want to take 2 steps back as well. Additionally, the way our mechanics work now, it's a mechanic that I don't like, but when the quarterback scrambles to his offside, to the umpire's side, the referee still takes the quarterback. And the referee will take the quarterback to extinction, is the term I use. So the umpire just basically has to give room for the quarterback and the referee to cut in front of them and get up with the play. And then you officiate the backside lineman. I don't like that mechanic. I think the umpire should take over the quarterback, but that's a debate for another day.
That's interesting. Let's talk about communication between the two of you here, because when you've got your umpire across the line of scrimmage, it's very easy to make eye contact when you're counting, checking off on your count, whatever, tapping your hat. Talk to me how the communication works between the two of you, where you're side by side, both looking forward at the line.
Well, the from my perspective, the communication starts when I spot the ball. And I spot the ball, and theoretically, I wait for the referee to tell me it's time to leave the ball. That takes too long. So what we do, if there is, depending on what the offense is doing, if they're not running tempo, if they're not running hurry up, or even if they're running no huddle and they're not in a hurry, they're just coming up to the line and doing their signals, I will spot the ball. And if the center's not going to take charge of the ball, once the downs box is set, and I will never leave until the downs box is set. And I always tell my referee this beforehand. Even before the referee may signal me off, I'm going to head back to my position, keeping in mind that the ball is my responsibility until it's snapped. Communication, if I'm holding the ball for a mass substitution, if I'm holding the ball for one reason or another, the referee will communicate with me to wave me off the ball. Now that may be by pointing at me, that may be just by giving me a nod, because my focus is on him. As I come back, I may have counted my men. I have secondary responsibility for counting offense. Primary responsibility in six-man, it's both the referee and the umpire that have primary responsibility for the offense. Seven-man, I only have secondary responsibility because I've got, by the time I get back there, count my men may not happen. I make sure I get my 5 interior linemen. Look for eligible, ineligibles, report them. So my communication I may get from the referee when I'm coming back, he may let me know that 67's reported eligible. So I give the signal to my sideline guys. As well, if I get my count, I will let the referee know. Some referees, Allison likes a vocal, yep, or I got, meaning I got them. Other referees will just like a tip of the cap. But that's pretty much your pre-snap communication. Al, am I missing anything on the way by there? Because you communicate more with the other officials as well.
Yeah. No, Jim, I don't think you missed anything. One of the things that Jim mentioned about eligible ends and whatnot, some of us have a little mechanic to indicate to our sideline guys that we have an end in front of us. Like Jim talks about, the biggest issue for him was shifting into the offensive backfield. For the first few games working a 7-man crew, I find my biggest issue is timing. And the timing being, I forget that the umpire is on my side of the ball. And it's not, and I've done it every year that we've gone to the 7, at least once or twice. I've blown time in and my umpire's still at the ball. So I have a responsibility to allow him to do his job and allow him to get safely to a position that he needs to get to. But a lot of the communication, like Jim says, I'm a vocal guy. I yak a lot, and I like the verbal because it keeps me sort of on my toes. Other guys, it's nods, winks, tips of the hat type of thing. There's a lot of communication that goes on the field between officials that nobody knows happens. And some of it's very subtle, but it's really, really important.
Just to talk about communication again real quick, because we've talked about that in the previous. So what's interesting in the 7-man crew is you got the 2 sideline officials, they're communicating back and forth with each other. On the deep side of the ball, you've got all 3 of these officials here communicating back and forth as far as counting goes. There's a lot of pre-snap conversations going on back here. But Al, can you talk about any type of communication you're having with the field judge looking downfield?
I don't even know he's there sometimes, unless it's John Peters and he's very tall and I see him. The field judge in a 7-man crew becomes responsible for the 20-second play clock. So I've got to get myself in a position that he can see when I blow time in, or hear that I'm blowing time in. Really, there's not a whole lot of conversation between, or communication between me and the center deep guy, from play to play. Again, as I mentioned a few seconds ago, is that the referee is responsible to make sure that everybody on the crew is set and ready to go. So sometimes that's a quick scan to make sure guys are in their position and ready to roll. But Ray, I would lie to you if I said that I did a whole lot of communication with the 22nd, with the field judge rather.
Okay, no problem, no problem. And Fowler, just one other thing I want to talk about it, because when I was a sideline guy coming up, when I first came up to the AUS, you as the umpire did something I'd never seen before, and it kind of threw me off. And every time we have a spring games, it does. I see the new guys. They always say, "What's that mean?" But Fowler will pre-snap give a signal where he's going like this to the sideline guys. What does that signal mean?
Oh, that means if you either got eligibles reporting ineligible or ineligibles reporting eligible. So it may be if you've got a 67 on the end, he's reported eligible, so he's going to be okay. At the university level, in the pre-games, we get from the coaches the standard members of the kicking team, because usually there's 6 or 7 people in wrong positions by number, and we will put them on the card before the game, so we know on any given punt play there are 6 numbers that are playing out of position by rule that have reported. And if we have them on the card, usually you will see that signal to both sideline guys immediately before a punt play, just to let them know that we're on the card. So if there's a flag downfield for ineligible men or what you may have, then we'll just go to the card to figure out who was eligible and who was ineligible. And that's something we can do. We can probably start to get rid of that signal a little bit now that we use our RefCom. I think we should be using that more and more to basically just get on the radio and say we're on the card, or 67's reported eligible. We can handle it that way.
Well, I know as well, I'm deep now, but I know when I was a sideline guy, we started announcing the numbers prior to it. Just made my life a lot easier too. So it's good that we track that stuff. All right. So I'm going to unshare this screen here. It's going to look a little weird, but this is how it works. All right. I'm going to unshare this, and now I'm going to bring up our play that we're going to be reviewing here. All right. So there you guys are. You guys can see the screen?
Roger Dodger.
All right, so here we go. This is a play between Bishops and Acadia, obviously at Acadia. What I can tell you prior to this play, it's 1st down and 10 at the 43-yard line. Ball is going out. When you look at this play initially, from an umpire and referee position, what kind of things are you kind of taking notice of before the play? I'll start with you, Gates.
So what am I looking for pre-play?
Yeah.
Again, like we talked about earlier, do I have the proper guys on my side of the line? I want to know, I've already determined, because we're probably later in the game here, the quarterback's a right-handed thrower. What do I have in the backfield? And where is the quarterback lining up? Basically, so I can get my depth from the line of scrimmage. No real clues like this one for this play, like we talked about the other ones. We've got a 1st and 10, so it's sort of wide open what Bishops may run in this play.
And Jim, anything from your perspective that you're kind of noticing pre-play that you're going to kind of keep an eye on?
No, I would I would be going through all my keys. It's a pretty vanilla offensive alignment, pretty vanilla defensive alignment. I know who my guys are pre-snap, and I will be moving off, coming to them. I know I've got trips to the wide side, so that means there's a solo receiver down at this end, but that really doesn't affect me or what I am going to be doing with the play. I may, well, when the play goes off, obviously I'm watching the lineman try to get a key from that.
All right. One thing we didn't talk about on the previous slide, which I would have liked to, but I'm just going to talk about it here real quick. Let's talk about keys before the snap. So your deep sideline official, the guy 25 yards down line on the sideline, he is responsible. Oops, I'm moving the screen. I don't mean to be doing that, but he's responsible for receiver number 1. He's going to be watching this guy. This receiver on the sideline, he's going to have number 2 receiver right here. Number 3 receiver, this is going to now be the responsibility of the field judge downfield. And over on this side of the line, this is where it gets a little bit interesting. Your deep sideline guy is going to be responsible for this receiver here. And the inside, the sideline guy here, Al, do you want to talk about this? What running back is the sideline guy going to be watching?
He's going to take the front running back. And this is where they're stacked like that. He's going to take the front guy. If the guy's he's going to take the receiver closest to him when the ball is snapped.
Right.
And that's when you pick up your player responsibilities, when the ball is snapped.
Yeah. And again, we talk a lot. We talked a little bit about this in the 6-man, but in the 7-man, this is really important. You have that key until they're clear into whatever they're going to be running, whether they're blocking, whether they're running a route. You've got that key up until that point they're clear, and then you kind of resort to zone coverage, right?
As long as the receiver there's a threat to the receiver, you have him.
Right.
So if the deep side guy on this side of the field, where we have the solo receiver, if that receiver runs a streak route and the defender stays right with him, he has that guy the whole length of the field. If that receiver goes down 5 yards and does a little slant in and nobody goes with him, he releases him and then goes to his own coverage and starts looking for guys coming to his zone,
right,
or to help out.
And I think as time goes on, they seem to be emphasizing more and more that we stay with our receivers, our assigned receivers, longer and longer, because sometimes after you leave them for your zone, mischief happens.
Exactly. Yeah.
The other thing I'd comment about, you'd asked me if I was noticing anything, not necessarily from an umpire's perspective, but for the people that have pass coverage in this, they're going to notice that it's not a cover 2, it's just a cover 1. There's nobody over the top and nobody's in press coverage, right? They're all off the line. So
yeah. If you heard the door just open, my youngest brother Nick just showed up here. We're going for a little walk after tonight's session, so he showed up a little bit early, which is not unlike him. Not unlike him.
Is this part of your goal to get to a 20-pound walk, or?
I have a goal right now, Fowler. My goal was to reach 200 kilometers in the month of February. I'm now at over 230, and I'm going for 300 kilometers in the month of February. So
what a guy.
Going again tonight. All right, let's get back into the play. So what I'm going to do tonight, rather than stop it like we did last week, Al, what I want to do is I want to watch it clean right from the get-go. Let's watch it, the entire play, and then we can break it down a little bit from there, okay? Perfect. So let's start the play. All right. So this isn't our first time seeing the play. Anything do you guys want to talk about up front when it comes to this play?
What would you like us?
Yeah.
All right. Well, okay. I'm going to take it back here. Okay.
Yeah.
We have a flag on this play. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, again, this is learning tool. Okay. When I first watched this play, just watch the covering official that throws the flag here. Did you notice anything there?
Flag was too deep in his pocket.
Yeah.
I
Well, he signaled incomplete before he threw the flag. I guess.
exactly. So I
Well-
saw the incomplete and then I saw the flag. So there's just a tiny little bit of confusion for me prior to the, to watching this. And I
Back it
want
up.
to know,
No, back it up, Ray, just a touch.
okay,
You can see that he reaches for his flag and misses it. See right there? He's reached,
yeah,
he's missed it. Okay, he's killed the
Oh,
play.
No, he's got it.
Okay. But see, the flag's out of his pocket now when he declares incomplete.
and then it comes out. Okay.
No, it's already out.
Yeah. It's interesting. It disappears there for a second.
Yeah.
Magic trick. But when I first saw this, I saw the incomplete and then the flag. So my question to Jim as an umpire is when, and I'm not saying this was, but if something happens during a play that's a little bit confusing or people are wondering what just took place on the flag or on the play, what steps are you taking as an umpire to support your referee in that kind of situation?
Well, usually on a pass that's downfield, again, the referee's primary responsibility is to look after the quarterback, and he will look after the quarterback well after the ball's thrown. So in all likelihood, the referee has absolutely no idea what transpired downfield. The umpire, working with the lineman, once the pass is gone, if the threat is passed, if they are breaking apart, not going at each other, you will take a quick glance downfield. The ball says that you have some tertiary responsibility for complete, incomplete. No, that's not gonna happen. But once you're finished with the lineman, you're usually looking downfield to get a sense of what's happened. I'm looking for signals from any of the downfield officials. I'm looking for flags. If I see a flag, I'm yelling flag, flag to my referee. If it's a catch, I'm signaling my referee catch, so he'll know what's going on. Additionally, with our ref com now, the field judge would, or the deep sideline official would in all probability be on the radio saying incomplete flag and radioing it up. But my job after I'm finished with my linemen to find out for my referee what happened down there, because he probably has absolutely no idea, nor should he have any idea, really. If he knows what's happened down there, he hasn't been doing his job in the offensive backfield.
Exactly. From a coverage standpoint, you can see downfield, we have much more, our coverage is much better in a 7-man than a 6 and a 5. In the fact that on this particular play, you've got eyes coming in here from the field judge, you got eyes coming across from your side judge in this case, and now your down judge, see Gator, I'm learning, your down judge also has eyes because he's released as that ball's come off the line of scrimmage. So now you have at least 3 sets of eyes on this play here as it's coming downfield.
It's important, excuse me, it's important that you know too that if we went back to the line of scrimmage when this was all lined up, the receiver in white is the responsibility of that deep sideline guy. So the wide receiver out by the number 40 is the responsibility of the deep sideline official.
Right.
That's the player who has a pass interference against him. You might end up having 2 flags on this play, because if you take it down to where the ball target area is, you can see that he's moved in towards the center of the field. Okay, so he's breaking in. Sorry, deep side guy still got him because he's still threatened, but he's now moved almost right into the field judge's area.
Right.
So I don't know what happened. I wasn't looking closely what happened to the receivers the field judge would have been responsible for. But now this field judge is into his zone coverage. So you may possibly have 2 flags in this play.
Yeah. And with pass interference, look, you know, you can watch film a million times, but it's a judgment call. It's a judgment call, and what that official sees on the sideline versus what the field judge sees, it's 2 completely different angles. So that's why you don't always get 2 flags on a play like this, right?
Yep.
All right, let's back it back up here. What's going on with the line here, Fowler? Is there anything as the line starts to engage?
Yeah, just pause it here, because there's something interesting that happens. In our rule book, as it is right now, an offensive lineman cannot go downfield unless he is engaged with a defensive counterpart. We had some discussion at Rules Committee this year about changing that. I'm in favor of it, but I'm not of the majority. The rule is still going to be in the rule book. So let's keep an eye on the right guard. Maybe let this go forward a frame or 2 and see what happens with the right guard.
Just before you do, Ray, sorry. If the people that are viewing this, if they remember last week on the screenplay, one of the things I said was the coaches might be concerned because there were players downfield blocking on that screenplay.
Mm-hmm.
And I alluded to the fact that was different. That's a different type of forward pass compared to this one.
Right.
So that's the point that Jim's bringing up today about these linemen interaction.
This pass is over the line of scrimmage versus last week it was before the line of scrimmage.
Correct.
Right.
So keep in mind there is a play fake on this play to a running back, and everybody else except the right guard matches up with somebody at the line of scrimmage. And just roll it ahead there a little bit, Ray. See what happens. Bang. Okay. So that's a good 5, 6, 7, 8 yards downfield, and he hasn't maintained contact. So by rule, that's a foul. And I don't want to get into the discussion today about whether we would call it, whether we wouldn't call it, because there are a whole bunch of parameters and things that are happening there. But what it is demonstrative of is the fact that you do not have an umpire in the center of the field right now. If the umpire were in a traditional position, he would see that.
Right.
Whether you call it or not, different question, but he would see it. It's going to be right in front of him. Right now, as you've demonstrated, the referee's got the quarterback, the umpire has the lineman, everybody else on the field has pass receivers. Nobody is looking in that area and nobody can see in that area. The sideline guys, if the receiver leads them in there, may see that, but they'll never get called in a week of Sundays.
Yeah. And just to back this up, we've talked, you just mentioned it, Fowler, but in the 5-man system and the 6-man system, we talked about the soft spots of those mechanics. And there's no question Right in here is the soft spot of the 7-man crew, unless these second receivers run some kind of drag route that goes through the middle, because then your sideline guys should be watching those guys come through that action and would pick that up. But if they're running downfield, this 100% is a soft spot of the 7-man system with the umpire on the other side of the ball. All right, so I'm going to run this play one more time. Is there anything else you guys want to talk about this play?
No, I thought it was quite straightforward. I thought it was
Okay.
well officiated. I don't know who all the officials were, but everything that had to be done was done on it. Al, your comments?
I agree. It was well covered. Guys had their keys, as some guys use that terminology a lot, and stayed with them when they still needed to be covered.
I must have been on the back judge then, because I'm not on camera, but I must obviously be in this crew, is what you're saying.
You must have been
No.
the back judge in the other game.
The one we had 3 flags on this play. All right, so let's just watch it one more time. Watch the mechanics. You could see that sideline official broke when the ball went across the field. So yeah, we had great coverage on this play. I'm going to go ahead and end this now. But Fowler, if we had multiple flags on the field, we talked about this earlier about the importance of the umpire. But if we have multiple flags and you're watching your referee, and it happens, we get that deer in the headlights as we're doing the math, trying to calculate where we're at.
Sometimes you get 3 flags on the same play.
Right? Exactly. Talk to me about how you decide to jump in or when you make that decision to jump in and help out in that discussion.
Well, if there's, number one, you've got to be on the scene, and number two, the referee is asking the officials, okay, what do you got? What do you got? He usually gets that information, and then the next question he will usually ask is which happened first, right? Because we have to decide what we're going to do with all of this. I will listen to what the referee is saying and the questions he is asking. If I feel everything's on board, I just wait for him to tell me, Mr. Umpire, go march off 15 yards from the point of possession or the last scrimmage, whatever he tells me, and I go ahead and I do it. If there's an option or a question that should be asked, I will usually jump in and say, well, what about? Or can we consider this? Language, something like that. And look, there's a lot of things going on in a referee's head in a football game. They've got to control an awful lot. I have to control an awful lot less. So it's just like being a defense attorney, really. You listen. If you like what you hear, you don't say anything, and you're good. If you don't like what you hear, well, you better start doing something about it, because it's not, if we do something incorrectly, it's not the referee's fault. It's everybody's fault, and primarily the umpire in my position, but we're all in this together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Listen, that was great. Fowler, I love how you break things down and walked us through that umpire position. Before we get out of here, Al, anything you want to say heading out?
No, I think this is a new format. It was really interesting to have the conversation.
It is. And you know, if again, 5-man, 6-man, 7-man, if there's an umpire you want to learn from, if there's questions, I found as a new official, one of the things that I was shocked when I became a new official and met Jim is how open you are to helping somebody succeed on the field. And you just, as a hockey official, you didn't have that support from your other officials. There's too much competition for big games, but I really found that in the football world, the support of a new official coming up. You were fantastic with me, and patient with me. So new guys out there, you're thinking about moving into the middle of the field, make sure, don't hesitate to ask, because he's got the knowledge. Like you said, 25 years, 26 years, he's been doing it a long time.
A lot longer. Well, thanks for those kind words, but really it's about being a crew, right?
Yeah.
And the stronger everybody is in the crew, the better we all are. So
We are. And listen, one of the greatest things about being in the AUS panel with you too is it's not just the game on the field, but it's the drives to the game, the dinner after the games. Like, we really enjoy each other's company. And Fowler, in the last couple of years, you and I have had, we've worked a lot of games together. We've had a few overnighters together, which is great now. I love overnighting with you because I know with the AUS, the budget's gone up and we got our own beds, which is great, because in the very beginning, my very first overnighter was with Jim Fowler. We repped in St. Mary's and Halifax. And rather than stay in Halifax, our supervisor at the time, Mr. Bill Glendenning, I love him, but he brings us back to Truro. So we're staying overnight in Truro, and there's three of us. He says, come to the hotel room, let's have beer. So we're all sitting around having a beer in this hotel room. And the whole time I'm thinking, okay, he's going to give me my keys. I'm going to go get my own room. I just figured we'd all have our own room. And next thing I know, I'm crawling in with Fowler into a double bed, and it's the three of us in one room. And I did that for about 15, 20 minutes, Fowler. And where did I go from there?
Well, I think you might have gone and spent the night in your car. But even having to share a bed with me has sometimes been surpassed by yourself when you found yourself without a room.
Yes. All right. That's a different story. All right. We're not going to tell that story tonight. All right. Thanks again, guys. That is your 7-man positioning with a great definition of what the umpire is all about. And Fowler, we look forward to having you back in the future as we talk about other things going on in the 7-man, 6-man, or 5-man system.
Hey, thanks, guys. This was fun.
That was great, Jim. Thank you.
Cheers. Good night.
Cheers.